No DQ Galaxy, we are live with a recap of Monday Night Raw for March 18th, 2024 on the road to WrestleMania 40. This week's Raw was in Raleigh, North Carolina. Michael Cole called it a 9th straight sellout for WWE television. 14 plus thousand fans in attendance for the show. We kicked off Monday Night Raw with main event Jey Uso, who got a huge reaction as usual. He got straight to the point. He called out his brother, Jimmy. Jimmy did show up with Solo Sikoa. They came through the crowd. Jimmy and Jey had a stare down. Jey admitted that he misses Jimmy. And then Jimmy talked about how he never left. It was Jey who left the bloodline and went on a singles career, became a top merchandise seller, and became tag team champions without him. Jimmy said he was just trying to protect Jey the whole time. And then Jimmy said that the biggest moment of Jey's career is because of Jimmy. And Jey responded by saying that the biggest moment in his career is his dream match at WrestleMania against his brother. And he said he is going to knock the yeet out of Jimmy's ass. He attacked Jimmy, but then Solo provided a distraction. Jimmy got the upper hand. And then Cody Rhodes ran down to make the save for his friend. Came off the ropes with a cutter to Solo Sikoa, got rid of him. Cody and Jey stood tall to end the first segment on Monday Night Raw. Good stuff here. It wasn't too long. It was about 10 minutes. We had a little back and forth between these guys. I'm sure we'll get more between now and WrestleMania. I enjoyed it. Strong start to the show. We had a video package hyping up the main event of the evening, Becky Lynch versus Nia Jax, in a last woman standing match. We had our first match of the evening, which was DIY versus the Creeds. Very good match here. Creeds got in a lot of offense. Julius was out wrestling Ciampa. Ciampa had to go to the outside of the ring for a breather. Then Gargano tagged in. DIY got the upper hand for a while. They came over the top with stereo dives, patted themselves on the back. But then Brutus and Julius regained control. They were using their power. Julius looking very impressive. He came up from his knees while lifting up Ciampa for a vertical suplex. Crowd was very impressed with that. And then Gargano came in and saved Ciampa from the Brutus ball. Then Gargano got a hot tag. Ciampa delivered the avalanche white noise, but Julius kicked out. Then Ciampa and Julius exchanged shots back and forth. Ciampa was then in trouble. Julius got on the ankle lock, and then Julius managed to catch Gargano. Gargano was coming in to try and save Ciampa, but Julius caught him, powerbombed him, and then reapplied the ankle lock. Then you had dueling submissions from DIY. The Creeds powered out of the dueling submissions. They picked up DIY and launched them into each other. Then they each hit a moonsault to Ciampa, but Ciampa kicked out. And then Ciampa was able to avoid the Brutus ball. Ciampa managed to pin Julius after Gargano came in with a kick to Julius, and thus DIY advanced to WrestleMania. They will be getting their first WrestleMania match ever. Now, some people were upset about the Creed brothers not getting the match. I think this was the right call because the Creeds are the rookies. They're the new guys. DIY have been around in WWE for almost a decade now, and this is their first WrestleMania. The Creed brothers will have their chance. They will have their time in the spotlight, but I think for now, it was the right call for DIY. You could also say, why didn't WWE book this differently to have the Creeds win another match and qualify? It is what it is. They're rookies. It's not their time yet, but they will get it. I am sure of that. I think this match elevated them even though they lost, and they'll get their WrestleMania moment. So very good stuff here with these guys. Backstage, we had Andrade having a chat with Dominic Mysterio. Dominic admitted that he likes Andrade, and maybe there's even a spot in Judgment Day, but things have changed. Rhea Ripley then chimed in, said that it's an exclusive club, but they'll keep watching Andrade. They're going to check out Andrade's match for next week. Then we had Damian Priest confronting JD McDonough about losing to Ricochet in the gauntlet match. And Priest wants to make sure that JD and Dominic get it right this week. More on that in just a little bit. We had Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell against Katana Chance and Kaden Carter. The latter team had no entrance. And this was a very basic match. Essentially, it was just to continue the Candice LeRae heel turn. Katana Chance started selling her knee. Indy Hartwell was not sure what to do. She's still conflicted. But Candice, like a shark that smells blood, she got in there and targeted the knee, slammed it into the ring post, and then picked up the win with a submission. It was what it was. Basic stuff here just to further the heel turn. We then had Cody Rhodes come into the ring for a promo to respond to the Rock concert from last week's SmackDown. This was a very interesting promo from Cody. Cody was breaking the fourth wall. Cody used the heel term, saying that The Rock considers himself to be our favorite heel, and basically making it clear a heel is a bad guy in wrestling. And Cody said there's been lots of great heels like Bobby Heenan and Ric Flair. He doesn't think The Rock is a heel, though. He thinks The Rock is an asshole. And he was not done. He said that The Rock might be on Mount Rushmore, but he's also a whiny bitch. And Cody brought up how The Rock called him out for crying, but The Rock, according to Cody, has been crying behind the scenes ever since the We Want Cody movement. Then Cody continued talking about WrestleMania. Doesn't know if it's going to be a fair fight, but he questioned what kind of version of The Rock will be showing up to WrestleMania. Will it be big energy Dwayne? Big Dwayne energy? Or will The Rock have little dick syndrome? And that's exactly what he said. LDS, little dick syndrome, on this PG show, which is very interesting because we've heard all these reports about The Rock using profanity, and maybe some people in WWE are not happy about it, and WWE has these strict guidelines. It was very interesting. And then Cody kept going. He said at WrestleMania, he's going to show that The Rock is not actually the final boss, but rather Roman's side chick. I liked it. I thought it was a great promo. Cody firing back at The Rock, and he even brought up Brian Gerwitz, who writes for The Rock. He mentioned him, some breaking of the fourth wall, and Cody got in some shots back at The Rock. I enjoyed it very much. Shout out to Chalky. I've always been Aaron Rift, as long as I can remember. So thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. I mean, I was using my name since WWFWCW.com, just FYI. And Netflix might be a very interesting era if WWE continues to go in this direction with pushing the envelope. And we were not done with this segment. After all this, we had Paul Heyman showing up. And Paul Heyman said he had a message from the tribal chief, a little proposal saying that if Cody agrees to show up alone on SmackDown for this confrontation with Roman Reigns, there will be no bloodline other than Paul Heyman with Roman Reigns. Cody said deal. They shook hands, and that set up Friday SmackDown. Apparently, it will be Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman and Cody Rhodes and nobody else in the ring for that confrontation. We'll see. Backstage, Jey Uso was giving Cody props, but warned him that it's the bloodline. Roman Reigns is never alone, and he has Cody's back if needed. And Jerry brought up an interesting point. What if this is setting up a new bloodline member? And when Heyman shook his hand, he meant, well, no Jimmy or Solo Sikoa. But he never said anything about a new person coming in. We'll have to wait and see what happens. SmackDown is looking pretty interesting. We had a little promo from Nia Jax to hype up her match. She was vowing to take Becky's WrestleMania spot. Becky Lynch did a promo in response to Nia. Then we went on to our next segment, which was Ricochet versus Dominic Mysterio. Basic segment match here. JD was out there interfering. Dominic got the upper hand for a while, but then Ricochet made his comeback. JD got on the apron. He was knocked off. Dominic went for a 619 but missed, and then Ricochet won with the recoil. So I wonder if this is leading to perhaps JD being kicked out of Judgment Day or some kind of shakeup with the group, because they let Damian Priest down again. Ricochet picks up a win. Solid stuff here. Then we had our contract signing, which I'm not the biggest fan of contract signings, and this was fine. Before we had the contract signing, we had Chad Gable backstage with Sami Zayn, and Chad Gable seemed very upset. Sami Zayn wanted to know what was up, and Chad Gable said everything's fine, but we all know when somebody says everything's fine, it's not really fine. And Gable eventually just vented and essentially said that he does not think Sami Zayn can beat Gunther. And that led to the contract signing. And Sami Zayn said that for years, people have doubted him. They didn't think he could win the tag titles last year. He did it in the main event. He said he's going to make history again and end the reign of the longest running Intercontinental Champion of all time. He signed the contract. And then Gunther said that Zayn's dreams will meet reality at WrestleMania. He signed the contract. He started to leave. Sami Zayn told him, don't go yet. Wanted to look him in the eyes and make it clear he's taking the title from him at WrestleMania. And then Sami Zayn stormed off. It was fine. It was a basic segment here. Didn't drag on too long. So for that, it was above most contract signings, which I feel just go on for way too long. They did a cool camera shot where Sami Zayn walked all the way to the back and the camera followed him with one continuous shot. And then Zayn walked off past R-Truth and Miz. And that was just one continuous shot for the transition into the Awesome Truth promo backstage. And it was funny because you had Indus Sher coming into the shot, and R-Truth's like, I feel bad for whoever is facing those guys, not realizing that It's him and Miz against Indus Sher. And Kevin Dunn ended up trending on Twitter because this was very un-Kevin Dunn-like, these long shots. And we're seeing this more on WWE programming now, where they're doing less camera cuts. Definitely not doing as many as they used to. And people are liking it. It feels more like a sports program. Doesn't feel like some kind of ADHD television show where they're doing a million shots to try and keep people watching, and it's a different vibe and atmosphere. We had the tag match, R-Truth and Miz against Indus Sher. I mean, to me, this was very predictable. I mean, I could not see Awesome Truth not making it to WrestleMania, especially when Indus Sher has barely done anything on WWE television. Truth did John Cena's moves as usual. And then The Miz came in, hit the skull-crushing finale to Veer. I believe it was Veer. And then the other one took a shot at Truth. Truth was the legal man, and Truth fell onto Veer and got the 1-2-3 victory. Jinder Mahal was out there, but he got taken out. And Miz and R-Truth advance to WrestleMania. And I stand by what I said before. I would like to see R-Truth and Miz win the tag team titles at WrestleMania. I just want to see the feel-good moment. Then we had Sami Zayn backstage confronting Gable about the Gunther comment. And Gable just said that Gunther is on another level. He's a different beast. And Sami Zayn is going to have to change his mentality if he wants to have any chance of beating Gunther at WrestleMania. Is this a potential Chad Gable heel turn? I mean, it certainly seemed like this was the direction here, that Gable is not happy, and we're going to see some kind of change of character for him. I'm intrigued about it, that's for sure. We also had a video of CM Punk basically confirming he will be at WrestleMania. He said, "You cannot have WrestleMania in Philadelphia without Phil." And they did hype up next week. CM Punk will be in Chicago for Monday Night Raw. And then in 2 weeks, the go-home show for WrestleMania, The Rock will be on Monday Night Raw. So there you go. The Rock will be back. We'll have some fireworks on the go-home Raw. I mean, next two Raws heading into WrestleMania, we got CM Punk 1 week and The Rock the other week. They're keeping things hot. Things have not slowed down going into WrestleMania. We had Drew McIntyre come into the ring, but as he was making his entrance, he was interrupted by Seth freaking Rollins, the world champion. And McIntyre said, "Go ahead, do your thing. Enjoy the spotlight because it's ending after WrestleMania." And Rollins admitted he is a spotlight junkie. And he talked about loving the business, coming out there. It's his drug, basically. It's his fix. And this felt very much like Eddie Guerrero's promo from like 2004 when he called himself an addict and how much he loves wrestling. And that was his addiction. Had similar vibes to that. And Rollins said that McIntyre is also an addict. And again, Rollins brought up WrestleMania 36, how McIntyre won in the empty arena. And then when the lights came back on, when the fans returned, McIntyre fumbled the ball. And McIntyre is going to find out he's not quite as good as he thinks he is. And then Rollins took his leave. I mean, this was mostly Rollins. McIntyre had a few lines in there saying that he's going to get the moment that he earned, not the moment he deserves, but rather the moment he earned at WrestleMania. It was a very good segment here. Rollins having a more serious side. I liked it. Shout out to Building Nexus, who sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, will the special guest referee be CM Punk? I mean, I would like to see it. And, CM Punk can be unbiased because he is a guy that doesn't get along with anybody really, especially Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins for that matter. So he would be calling it down the middle. He doesn't like either guy. So they could do that. Maybe he's an enforcer. Walter Cruz, shout out to Walter. Sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that, Walter. Says CM Punk should commentate for Drew's match. I mean, maybe he'll do that. Maybe he'll have his diet soda out there and Drew McIntyre will throw it into the crowd and that'll cause Punk to do something. Punk is going to be there. He made it clear you cannot have WrestleMania in Philadelphia without Phil. But the question is, how much physicality will he do while he's still recovering from the torn tricep injury? That remains to be seen, but I expect him to do something at WrestleMania one way or another. We had New Day versus Otis and Tozawa, another qualifying match for the ladder match at WrestleMania, tag team six-pack challenge. 12 guys are going to be in the ring with ladders. That's going to be a bit crazy. Another match that I think was obvious with the outcome. I mean, Tozawa is not going to WrestleMania. With all due respect to him, he's been on the upswing a little bit, but yeah, he wasn't going to be winning this one. Otis came in, cleaned some house, did the caterpillar, then Tozawa tagged in, and Tozawa did get in a little bit of offense. He even came off the top with a senton, went for the cover on Xavier, but Kofi broke up the pin. And then Kofi took out Otis with a tornado DDT on the outside of the ring. And then Woods pinned Tozawa with the springboard elbow drop off the top rope. It was fine. It was basic match, but entertaining. Then we had our main event of the evening. We had Becky Lynch versus Nia Jax in a last woman standing match. But before we get to that, shout out to Hamp Connell with our little history lesson of the day. Today in history from 2002, the day after WrestleMania 18, we saw the debut of the next big thing, Brock Lesnar. He came in there, he destroyed, I think, the hardcore division. One of those first weeks he was there, I remember he smashed Jeff Hardy right in the face with a steel chair. But yeah, right from the get-go, he was booked like a monster, and they had very high hopes on him. Also, you talk about the day after WrestleMania 18, who can forget that Hulk Hogan promo when he turned back to being a babyface and he got that standing ovation in Montreal. One of the all-time great Monday Night Raw moments. So thank you for that, Hamp. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, which current jobber could be a future star? Well, you can look at a lot of people that are enhancement talent for the time being and say, maybe. It's hard to say. I don't know if Tozawa's going to be elevated to the level that would be considered a star, but he has been on the upswing a little bit. So I guess never say never with him. Now that Vince McMahon is gone, maybe him. It is tough to say. Like guys that are just not being used, you never know though. Like a guy that the company has no plans for, and this goes for AEW too. The company might not see this guy as anything more than enhancement. Maybe one day they'll catch on and they'll build a fan base. You never know. So let's talk about the main event. Becky Lynch and Nia Jax. Nia was dominating the early part of this match. She was delivering Samoan drops into the ring post, into the barricade, and then Becky Lynch got the upper hand using the steel chair. There were a bunch of chairs in the ring. Nia regained control, gave her a Samoan drop on the chairs, and was hitting Becky with a chair repeatedly. Becky got up, though, beat the 10 count. Then Becky used a kendo stick. Nia regained control again, went for a leg drop on the apron, but missed. And shout out to Pat McAfee with a great line. When Nia missed the leg drop on the apron, he said that there is, and I quote, a whole lot of pain for Nia. Bravo for that one, Pat McAfee. I appreciated that. And then Nia teased climbing a ladder, but did not do it. She climbed back down. Becky used a fire extinguisher on Nia, and she charged at Nia in the ring, but Nia countered with a Samoan drop through a table that was in the corner, and then came off the top with the Annihilator. Becky Lynch managed to roll outside to the ring and land on her feet before the count of 10. Then they were fighting on the apron, and Becky ended up giving Nia a manhandle slam off the apron through two tables that were placed next to each other. Crowd loved this. They were chanting "Holy shit," and we did get some censoring from USA Network. Nia managed to get up in time, but as she was getting up, she was hovering over the announce table. Becky Lynch climbed the announce table and came off the ladder with a leg drop, putting Nia through the announce table, and Nia was unable to make the 10 count. Becky Lynch won. Very good match here to close out the show. And then Rhea Ripley, the women's champion, came down, had a stare down with Becky in the ring. The two of them exchanged words, and that was the end of this week's Raw. We have a couple of super chats here, and then I'll get to my letter grade. Shout out to Michael. He said maybe some of the, quote, security guards from last week. I mean, that's true. I mean, we've seen it over the years. I remember when Keith Lee was a security guard. I think Bobby Roode, MJF was a security guard in the hallway when Samoa Joe shoved him. So you never know with those security guards. You got to keep an eye on them. One of those guys one day might be a future superstar in WWE. And shout out to Michael, and also a shout out to Hamp, who sent in a $2 super chat. So thank you for that, Hamp. Said 2001, the last ever WCW pay-per-view, Greed. Very depressing time. Like, that pay-per-view, it was all right. They were starting to build a little bit of momentum, reestablishing the cruiserweights. They had some new blood in there. They had a young guy by the name of AJ Styles, but unfortunately for WCW, it was the end of the line. And Eric Bischoff could not secure a sale of WCW. Vince McMahon swooped in, bought the company for pennies on the dollar. I mean, it was a very sad time watching that pay-per-view, knowing that it was the end of the road for WCW. So overall, I thought Raw was very good. Strong build for WrestleMania. I enjoyed the DIY Creed Brothers tag match. I definitely recommend checking that out if you missed it. Main event was very good. Nia's putting on some good performances since she has returned. And this was one of her better matches of her career, maybe best match of her career. So some good wrestling on the show. I liked Cody's promo, hyping up WrestleMania. McIntyre and Rollins had a good segment. Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso had a good segment. I give it a B+. Very good Raw. I enjoyed it. Looking forward to next week. And then in 2 weeks with The Rock. 9th sellout for WWE. They are continuing to run hot. into WrestleMania. It's a fun time to be a fan. So thank you guys for tuning in. We got Dynamite coming up on Wednesday, and they're doing Rampage live immediately after Dynamite. So I guess I'm recapping both shows on Wednesday, and I'll be on at 11:05 Eastern. There you go. They're gonna make me watch Rampage this week. Tune in for that. Wednesday night, I'll be back to recap Dynamite and Rampage. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com. Busy news day today, a lot of news. So head over to NoDQ.com for all the updates. Say yes to NoDQ. Buy a shirt. NoDQ.com/merch. And I will see you all next time.